So before we get to the main story, I just wanted to update you on the crowdfunding situation. Like a lot of creators last year, I set up an account at Subscribestar in the wake of the authoritarians at Patreon banning Sargon. Subscribestar then had payment processors PayPal and Stripe walk away, and so currently I can no longer receive patronage on that platform. So I've put the wheels in motion to create my own website, but that won't be ready until late next month. So in the meantime, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by donating directly via PayPal, or you could get something for your hard-earned cash in the IAM Shop. Now, it's been a while since I added any new designs, about a year in fact, so today I'd like to present the Girlette range of shirts. Now, obviously I couldn't use the Gillette logo, but in light of their public service announcement masquerading as an advertisement, I thought Girlette was entirely appropriate. So there are 3 different shirts in the Girlette range: the best a virtue signaler can get, the best a cuck can get, and a razor no man would get. And remember, there's a huge range of colours and styles to choose from. And there's a style for everyone, whether you identify as male, female, or a bandana-wearing dog. There's also a range of other accessories. I'm particularly excited about the hats because previously, for some reason, I couldn't get my logo on the baseball hats, but now here they are in all their glory. Perfect for confusing people at a baseball game. But wait, there's more. In light of recent layoffs in the digital media space, I've come up with another design to help those in need transition to a more useful and rewarding vocation. And even if you don't know any laid-off bloggers, wearing one of these out in public might just catch the eye of one of those maudlin creatures and give them some encouragement. So get on down to the IAM Shop. There's something for everyone. Now on to today's topic. You may have seen this tweet back in September of last year by the South Yorkshire Police encouraging citizens to report not only hate crimes, but non-crime hate incidents, which include things like insulting comments online. This post garnered more than 10,000 replies, and if you scroll through them, you'd be hard-pressed to find any in support of it. Now, this kind of policing is not new. Here's a similar tweet from Scotland Police in 2018. And of course, we all know what a wonderful sense of humour the Scottish Police have in light of the Count Dankula case. But lest you think this is a recent phenomenon, here's a tweet from the Wiltshire Police from 18 months ago. Personally, I think the bigger atrocity is that the Wiltshire Police can't distinguish between you're and you are. But hey, the Scots have been going down this path since at least December 2014, warning citizens that they can track down your mean tweets wherever you are. But in recent days, I think we may have reached peak Orwell, as the Humberside Police are now checking up on your thinking, merely for liking a tweet. 53-year-old Harry Miller, himself a former police officer, said he was questioned for 34 minutes over the phone by a police constable from Humberside Police. Here's how he described the call on Twitter. Got a call from director of his company saying cops wanted to speak to me. He had sense not to give out my number but said he'd pass on details. I rang, spoke to PC from Humberside, introduces himself as representing the LGBTQ community on a report of hate speech by me. They'd found me via my company, had been all over the website and decided if I employed trans people at all, it was not a safe place for them and work should know. Cop said he was in possession of 30 tweets by me. I asked if any contained criminal material. He said no. I asked if any came close to being criminal, and he read me a limerick. Honestly, a limerick. A cop read me a limerick over the phone. I said I didn't write that. He said, but you liked it and promoted it. I asked why he was wasting his time on a non-crime. He said, it's not a crime, but it will be recorded as a hate incident. So I've added to a statistic, even though there is no crime, which brings me to my next point. The cop repeatedly called the complainant the victim. I asked how there could be a victim if, as he'd established, there was no crime. He said, that's just how it works. My comment was that by framing the complainant as victim, this made me, by default, criminal. I asked him to desist from using it. This is where it gets incredibly sinister. The cop told me that he needed to speak with me because even though I'd committed no crime whatsoever, he needed, and I quote, to check my thinking. Seriously, honestly. Finally, he lectured me, said, sometimes a woman's brain grows a man's body in the womb, And that is what transgender is. You can imagine my response. Lastly, he told me that I needed to watch my words more carefully or I was at risk of being sacked by the company for hate speech, at which point I wished him well and said I needed to go and rinse my socks. I'm fine, by the way. It's upset my wife far more than it's upset me. And this makes me angry as hell. I'm considering my response to the chief constable because fuck him. Now, despite all the snooping from the Humberside Thought Police, what they didn't uncover was that the company they said Harry was at risk of being fired from is actually his. He owns it and is now the chairman, leaving the day-to-day business to the aforementioned director. Now, if you're wondering about that particular tweet that Harry liked, I'll leave a link below. It's a tweet thread in the form of a limerick, basically saying that trans women are not real biological women, written by a woman, but as we know, that kind of opinion will get you labelled a TERF and banned from places like universities. And the police constable that made the call said the following to the Daily Telegraph. Although none of the tweets were criminal, I said to Mr. Miller that the limerick is the kind of thing that upsets the transgender community. I warned him that if it escalates, we will have to take further action. If someone comes forward and says, I'm the victim of a hate incident and it's really upsetting me, then we have to investigate. Now, to be fair, I suspect that Police Constable Gould has been on some bullshit social justice course and is just doing what he's told. It's the higher-ups that should be answerable for this nonsense. And I'm sure this limerick is upsetting to some in the transgender community, but so what? Since when do you have a right to go through life not being upset or offended? I mean, is this a type of society we want to live in where everyone is a spy in the youth league and can report you to the thought police for simply liking a tweet? The term Orwellian gets overused, but I think it's perfectly appropriate in this case. Now, last week, Spiked put out a special podcast episode, link in the comments, on hate crime in the UK. It's both fascinating and frightening. Here's a teaser.
In 2009, Ben and Sharon Vogelenzang had a conversation in their guest house with a Muslim guest. They were Christians, their guest was Muslim, and they just had a breakfast time debate about the merits of their respective religions. Well, this Muslim guest complained to the police. She felt that she had been insulted, and a criminal prosecution ensued. It took a whole year for this prosecution to take place, during which time the Vogelenzangs lost most of their business. And even though they were acquitted in court, it took one morning for the judge to hear the evidence and acquit Ben and Sharon of any offence. They lost their business in the process. We see across Europe pastors, ministers, bishops, cardinals being investigated by the police for things preached from the pulpit. We see private conversations becoming the subject of criminal investigation, and we see journalists and members of the media investigated and arrested by police for things that they've printed or things that they've said.
Speaking for myself, I don't believe in the nonsensical category of hate speech, nor do I believe in hate crimes. And given what passes for a hate crime in the UK, I would say statistics on hate crime and non-crime hate incidents should not be taken seriously. Perhaps police resources could be better utilised elsewhere, given that victims of actual violent crime are in some instances waiting up to 9 days for police to respond to their 999 calls, rather than spending time checking on suspected thought crimes. As usual, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you next time.